The door to my workshop rattled at 6:47 a.m. on a Saturday. I was underneath my 1967 Mustang, tightening the bolts on her freshly rebuilt transmission, when I heard my daughter's voice calling through the gap. "Dad, you in there?" I rolled out from under the car, wiping grease from my hands onto a shop rag that had seen better days. Lisa stood in the doorway with Marcus, her husband of 3 years. Behind them, the early morning sun cast long shadows across the driveway of my property in Glendale, Arizona. Little early for a visit, isn't it? I checked my watch. My daughter knew I liked my Saturday mornings in the shop, always had, for the past 43 years. We brought breakfast. Marcus held up a bag from the diner on Central. Thought we could talk. I should have known right then. Marcus never bought anything he didn't expect a return on. The man worked in commercial real estate development, always calculating angles, always seeing property instead of places. But he was my daughter's choice, and I'd learned long ago to keep my opinions to myself on that front. Give me a minute to clean up. The workshop had been my sanctuary since I bought this property in 1982. 3,000 square feet of heaven with a hydraulic lift, every tool a man could need, and space for 6 vehicles. Currently housed my pride and joy, the Mustang I was restoring, a 1971 Chevy C10 pickup in mint condition, a 1959 Corvette that had taken me 5 years to hunt down, and 3 other classics in various states of restoration. My late wife Sarah used to joke that I loved these cars more than her. She knew it wasn't true, but she also understood what this place meant to me. We sat on the old couch I kept in the corner, the one Sarah had picked out at a yard sale 30 years ago. Marcus pulled out egg sandwiches, while Lisa poured coffee from a thermos. They were being too nice. I felt it in my gut, that same feeling I got when a project was about to go sideways. "Dad, we wanted to run something by you," Lisa started, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. "You know Marcus has been doing really well with his investments." "I'm aware." I took a bite of the sandwich. It was good. That somehow made me more suspicious. "Well, we've been thinking about your future." Marcus leaned forward. "You're 68 now, right?" 69 in November. "Right, 69. And you're out here every day, working on these cars, climbing under them, lifting heavy parts." He gestured around the workshop. "It's a lot of physical work for someone your age." I set down my sandwich. "I'm healthy as a horse. Doctor cleared me last month. Blood pressure's perfect. Cholesterol's better than it was 10 years ago." "That's great, Dad, really." Lisa touched my arm. "But we worry. What if something happened? What if you fell? Or got hurt out here alone? I've been doing this work since before you were born. Know what I'm doing." Marcus jumped in. "Of course you do. No one's questioning that. But Lisa and I have been talking, and we think maybe it's time to think about downsizing. You know, simplify your life." I looked at my daughter. She wouldn't meet my eyes. This property sits on 2 acres in a prime location. Marcus was in his element now. "Do you know what land like this is worth? With the way Glendale's growing, this could easily sell for $850,000, maybe $900. Not interested in selling. Just hear us out." Marcus pulled out his phone, started showing me charts and comparisons. "We found this great senior community in Scottsdale. Beautiful place. Everything maintained for you. Activities. People your age. You'd have a nice 2-bedroom condo. No yard work. No maintenance. They even have a hobby room where you could tinker with small projects." "A hobby room," I repeated, my voice flat. "Dad, it would be so much easier." Lisa finally looked at me. "No more worrying about property taxes, repairs, all this space you don't really need. The equity from this place would set you up comfortably for the rest of your life. You could relax, enjoy your retirement." I'd been retired for 4 years. This was my enjoyment. "I'm happy where I am. We just want you to think about it." Marcus stood up, brushing crumbs off his expensive slacks. "No pressure. But maybe we could tour some places together, just to look?" They left 20 minutes later. I went back to work on the Mustang, but my hands weren't steady. Something about the whole conversation sat wrong with me. The way they'd rehearsed it, the way Marcus had those numbers ready, the way Lisa couldn't look at me straight. That afternoon, I drove to my lawyer's office. Frank Morrison had handled my affairs since 1985. Drafted my will when Sarah got sick. He was semi-retired now. Only took appointments for old clients. Walter, good to see you. Frank shook my hand. What brings you by? Need to review my estate plan. Make sure everything's in order. We spent 2 hours going over everything. The property was in my name only. Sarah and I had bought it together, but when she passed, it transferred to me clean. No mortgages, no liens. The workshop, the cars, all of it was mine, free and clear. Your current will leaves everything to Lisa, Frank reminded me. Is that still what you want? For now. Just wanted to make sure there's no way anyone else could make decisions about the property while I'm alive. Frank peered at me over his reading glasses. Having problems? Just being careful. Smart man. Want my advice? If you ever feel pressured, document everything. Dates, conversations, who said what. You'd be surprised how often these things end up mattering. I took his advice to heart. 2 weeks passed. Lisa called every few days, always with some new angle. Had I thought more about touring communities? Did I know property taxes were going up? Wouldn't it be nice to have less responsibility? Marcus sent me links to condos, each one smaller and more depressing than the last. Then came Sunday dinner. Lisa had insisted on hosting at their house in Phoenix. It was unusual. We typically met at my place, or went out, but she'd been adamant, said she wanted to cook for me, try out a new recipe. I should have seen it coming. I arrived at 5 o'clock with a bottle of wine and a growing sense of unease. Marcus answered the door in golf clothes, though I'd never known him to actually play golf. Walter, come in, come in. Too cheerful, too bright. The smell of pot roast filled their house. Lisa had made Sarah's recipe. I recognized the scent of the spices she used. That was a low blow, whether she meant it or not. Dinner's almost ready, Dad. Why don't you have a seat in the living room? Marcus will get you a drink. I settled into an armchair while Marcus poured bourbon. Their house was nice enough, modern and clean, but sterile. No character, no history. Everything looked like it came from the same furniture showroom. So, Dad? Lisa brought out appetizers. We have something exciting to tell you. Here it comes. Marcus got an incredible opportunity. His firm is opening a new development in Tempe, and he's going to be the project manager. It's huge for his career. Congratulations. I sipped the bourbon. It was expensive stuff, probably meant to soften me up. Thing is, it's going to require a significant capital investment. Marcus sat across from me. Partnership stake. This is the kind of opportunity that could set us up for life. I waited. We've been approved for most of the financing, but we need to come up with $200,000 for the partnership buy-in. He leaned forward. We were thinking, if you sold the property, you could invest in the development, get a solid return. Much better than what that land is doing just sitting there. My land isn't just sitting there. I use it every day. Dad, be reasonable. Lisa's voice had an edge now. This is a chance for all of us to benefit. Marcus has run the numbers. With your investment, we could see a 30% return in 3 years. Or you could lose everything. I set down my glass. Real estate development is risky business, not the way Marcus does it. Lisa was getting frustrated. I could see it in the set of her jaw, same way Sarah used to look when she was digging in. This is a sure thing. And honestly, what are you going to do with all that space? You're almost 70 years old, Dad. You can't keep working on cars forever. Watch me. Marcus tried a different approach. Look, we're not saying you have to decide right now, but think about it. Lisa and I have been talking about starting a family. This investment would secure their future. Don't you want to help your grandchildren? There it was. The emotional manipulation, using hypothetical grandchildren to get me to liquidate my life's work. When you have grandchildren, we'll talk about their future. Right now, I'm talking about mine, and I'm keeping my property. Dinner was tense after that. Lisa barely spoke to me. Marcus kept trying to bring the conversation back around, but I shut him down every time. I left early, claiming I had an early morning, though we all knew it was a lie. The drive home gave me time to think. Something felt off about the whole thing. The pressure, the timeline, the amount they needed. I'd been in business long enough to know when someone was desperate, and desperate people make bad decisions. The next morning, I did something I wasn't proud of. I drove to their house at 10 a.m., knowing Marcus would be at work. Lisa's car was in the driveway, so I knocked. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "Left my reading glasses last night." Think I set them down by the couch. It was a flimsy excuse, but she let me in. While she went to check the living room, I excused myself to use the bathroom. On the way, I passed Marcus's home office. The door was open. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't. But something made me glance at the papers spread across his desk. What I saw made my blood run cold. They weren't investment documents. They were title searches, property assessments, development proposals, all for my land. Marcus had already approached developers, gotten quotes for demolishing the workshop, subdividing the property into 4 lots. There were preliminary offers, one for $875,000, another for $910, and there, stapled to the back of one proposal, was a draft email to a senior living facility in Scottsdale asking about availability and costs. They weren't trying to help me downsize. They were planning to sell my property out from under me. I took photos with my phone. Not many, just enough. Then I flushed the toilet, washed my hands, and returned to the living room. Found them on the kitchen counter. Lisa handed me my glasses, which I'd actually left in my truck. "Thanks, sweetheart. You doing okay? You seem stressed." "Just a lot going on." She walked me to the door. "Dad, about last night, I'm sorry if we pushed too hard. It's just, this opportunity really means a lot to us." "I understand." I kissed her forehead. "Let me think about it." She smiled, relieved. "Take your time. We just want what's best for you." I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. When I got back to my property, I sat in the truck for a long time, staring at the workshop that had been my haven for 43 years. My daughter was planning to sell my home, to take everything I'd built, everything Sarah and I had created together, and turn it into someone else's investment opportunity. That's when I smiled, because Lisa and Marcus had made one critical mistake. They thought I was a confused old man who didn't understand money or property or investment. They thought I'd spent the last 43 years just playing with cars, not paying attention to the world around me. But I'd built a successful machine shop from nothing. I'd invested wisely, saved carefully, and when I retired, I'd done so with more money than I'd ever need. The property wasn't my only asset. It was just the one I loved the most. If they wanted to play games with my future, I could play games with theirs. I called Frank Morrison the next day. "Frank, I need help with something unusual." "I'm listening." "I want to transfer ownership of my vehicle collection to a trust, immediately. And I want to set up a long-term lease for my workshop property to a nonprofit. Is that possible?" There was a pause. "It's possible. Going to cost you, though. And it's irreversible once it's done. What are you thinking?" I told him everything. The pressure to sell, the documents I'd seen, the manipulation. Frank listened without interrupting. "Walter, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Are you doing this out of spite, or because you genuinely believe it's the right move?" "Both." I didn't hesitate, but mostly because I won't be pushed out of my own life by people who should know better. "Fair enough. Give me a week." That week was the longest of my life. Lisa called twice, asking if I'd thought more about their opportunity. I told her I was considering it, which was technically true. I was considering how to make sure they never got their hands on it. Marcus sent more emails, more listings, more financial projections. Each one made my resolve stronger. Frank worked fast. He contacted the Glendale Community Workshop Program, a nonprofit that taught underprivileged kids mechanical skills and car restoration. They'd been operating out of a cramped facility near downtown, always looking for more space. The director, a woman named Carmen Rodriguez, came to see my shop on Thursday afternoon. She walked through it like it was a cathedral, running her hands along the tool benches, examining the lift, taking in the space with wonder. "Mr. Holbrook, this would change everything for our program." Her eyes were bright, but we could never afford rent on a facility like this. "What if I told you the rent would be $1 per year?" for the next 20 years. She stared at me. Why would you do that? Because I believe in what you're doing, and because I want to make sure this place stays what it was meant to be. A place where people learn, create, and build things with their hands. We shook on it right there. The car collection was easier. My friend Robert Chen had been trying to buy my Corvette for years. He ran a classic car museum in Scottsdale, a beautiful facility that treated vehicles like art. When I called and offered him the whole collection as a donation, with the stipulation that each car bore a plaque with Sarah's name and our story, he cried on the phone, "Walter, I don't know what to say. Say you'll take care of them, and say I can visit whenever I want. You'll have a lifetime pass. Hell, you'll have your own parking spot." The paperwork took another 3 days. Frank rushed everything through, called in favors, paid for expedited processing. By the following Wednesday, it was done. My vehicle collection was transferred to the Chen Museum Foundation. The workshop property was under a 20-year lease to the Glendale Community Workshop Program with an option to renew. I kept ownership of the land itself and the small house at the front of the property where I actually lived. But the workshop was spoken for, and I'd done it all without telling Lisa or Marcus a single word. That Saturday, I invited them to lunch. My treat, I said, a nice restaurant in Scottsdale, the kind of place Marcus liked to be seen in. They arrived looking hopeful. Probably thought I'd made my decision, that I was ready to sign over my property and fund their investment scheme. We ordered, made small talk, waited for the food to arrive. Marcus kept glancing at his watch. Lisa kept giving me encouraging smiles. Finally, over the main course, Marcus cleared his throat. "So, Walter, have you given any more thought to our proposal?" "I have. Thought about it a lot, actually." Lisa leaned forward. And I realized you were right about one thing. I am getting older. I need to think about the future, about legacy, about what happens to everything I've built. Exactly. Marcus was practically glowing. "So, you're ready to move forward?" "In a way." I took a sip of my wine. "I've transferred ownership of my car collection to the Chen Museum Foundation. They're going to display them in a special exhibit dedicated to Sarah's memory." Lisa's smile froze. "What?" "And I've leased the workshop to a non-profit that teaches kids mechanical skills. 20-year lease, $1 per year. Seemed like the right thing to do." The color drained from Marcus's face. "You did what?" "Oh, don't worry. I still own the land, and I'll keep living in my house at the front of the property. But the workshop itself, well, that's going to be a community resource now. Carmen, the program director, is already planning the grand opening. They're going to name it the Sarah Holbrook Memorial Workshop. I think she would have loved that." "Dad," Lisa's voice was shaking. "Tell me you didn't." "Didn't what?" I cut into my steak. It was perfectly cooked. Didn't make decisions about my own property, my own possessions. "You know what you did." Marcus was red now, his hands clenched on the table. "You just destroyed our investment opportunity." "Your investment opportunity in my land?" I looked at him calmly. "The land you were planning to sell without my knowledge? The development deals you'd already started negotiating?" Lisa went pale. "How did you—" I saw the papers on Marcus's desk, the title searches, the developer quotes, the email to the senior facility. I set down my fork. "You were planning to manipulate me into selling, take the money for your investment, and stick me in a condo while you profited off my life's work. It wasn't like that." Lisa was crying now. "We were trying to help you. Help me, or help yourselves." I pulled out my phone, showed them photos of the documents. "I'm 68 years old, not senile. I know exactly what you were doing." Marcus stood up, throwing his napkin on the table. "This is insane. We were offering you a chance to be part of something big, to secure your future. My future was already secure. It's yours, I'm wondering about now." "You can't do this." Marcus was almost shouting. People were starting to stare. "That property is Lisa's inheritance. You're her father. You can't just give it away." "I didn't give it away. I'm still living there. I just made sure it can't be sold or developed for the next 20 years. By the time that lease is up, I'll probably be gone, and then Lisa can do whatever she wants with the land." If she still wants it. If I still want it? Lisa's voice broke. Dad, how could you? How could I? I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and dropped enough cash on the table to cover the bill and a generous tip. You were planning to sell my home, Lisa. The home where you grew up, where your mother and I built our life. Where every tool, every car, every square inch holds a memory of the family we created. And you were going to bulldoze it for a strip mall and a parking lot. It's just property. Marcus tried one more time. It's not worth destroying your relationship with your daughter. You're right, it is just property. Which is why I'm confused about why you wanted it so badly. I looked at Lisa. Your mother taught you better than this. I know she did. Somewhere along the way, you forgot. I walked out of the restaurant. Neither of them followed. The calls started that night. First from Lisa, crying, begging me to undo what I'd done. Then from Marcus, angry, threatening legal action. Then from both of them together, trying reason, then guilt, then anger, then desperation. I didn't answer. Just like I didn't answer the next 73 calls over the following week. My phone showed the missed calls, the voicemails, the texts, each one more frantic than the last. They'd probably assumed I didn't understand the paperwork I'd signed, that Frank had taken advantage of me, that they could reverse it somehow. But Frank had been thorough. Everything was legal, binding, and irreversible. The cars were gone. The workshop was leased. Their investment opportunity had evaporated. On the 8th day, I finally answered when Lisa called. Dad? Her voice was small, broken. Please, we need to talk. I'm listening. Can I come over? Just me. Marcus is. He's not in a good place right now. I imagine not. She arrived an hour later, eyes red from crying. I met her at the door of my house, but I didn't invite her in. Dad, I'm sorry. She was sobbing. I'm so sorry. You're right. About everything. I got caught up in Marcus's plans, in the money, in the idea of being wealthy. I forgot what actually mattered. Did you? I kept my voice level. Or did you just forget until the money was gone? I was wrong. Completely wrong. Please, isn't there any way to fix this? Fix what? The legal contracts I signed? The commitments I made to people who will actually use that workshop for good? The museum that's already cataloging the cars and building the exhibit? I don't know. Something. Anything. She reached for my hand. I let her take it, but I didn't squeeze back. I can't lose you over this. You didn't lose me over this, Lisa. You lost me when you decided your inheritance was more important than my life. When you looked at the home where your mother died and saw dollar signs instead of memories. That's not fair. Isn't it? I pulled my hand back. Tell me something. When was the last time you asked about me? About how I'm doing, what I'm working on, what makes me happy? Not about my property value or my plans to sell. About me. She couldn't answer. That's what I thought. I stepped back into my house. The workshop lease has a clause. I can use it anytime I want. So I'll be there Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, teaching kids how to rebuild carburetors and restore classic engines. You're welcome to visit. See what your inheritance is actually doing in the world. But if you come because you want to see your father, not because you want to calculate what you lost. I closed the door. She stood on the porch for a long time. I watched through the window as she cried, as she finally walked back to her car, as she sat in the driver's seat for another 10 minutes before pulling away. The workshop's grand opening was 3 weeks later. Carmen had moved fast, bringing in her students, organizing the space, setting up a curriculum. The local news covered it, a struggling nonprofit getting access to a state-of-the-art facility, teaching disadvantaged kids valuable skills, giving them a path to careers in automotive technology. They interviewed me. I told them about Sarah, about how she'd always believed in giving people chances, in helping the next generation. I didn't mention Lisa or Marcus. Didn't need to. Robert's Museum opened the Sarah Holbrook Memorial Collection 6 weeks after that. Beautiful exhibit, each car restored to perfection, each plaque telling the story of how Sarah and I had found it, fixed it, loved it. Robert had even created a small theater showing videos of us working together, old footage from the 90 seconds that I'd forgotten I had. Lisa saw it on the museum's website. She called, asking if she could come to the opening. "It's a public museum," I told her. "You don't need my permission." She came alone. Marcus, I heard through the grapevine, was dealing with his own problems. The investment opportunity had fallen through when he couldn't come up with the capital. His firm had offered the partnership to someone else. He was back to being a regular employee, his big break gone. Lisa walked through the exhibit slowly, stopping at each car, reading each plaque. When she got to the Corvette, the one Sarah had loved most, she broke down, just stood there crying in the middle of the museum. I watched from across the room. Robert noticed. "Going to go to her?" he asked quietly. "Not yet. She needs to sit with this for a while." "She's your daughter, Walter." "I know. That's why this hurts so much." But I did walk over eventually. Stood next to her, in front of the Corvette. "Mom loved this car." Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. "She did. Called it her freedom machine. Said every time we took it out, she felt 20 years old again. I remember. You'd put the top down and drive up to Sedona, come back sunburned and happy. Best days of my life." I put my hand on the display railing. "These cars weren't about money, Lisa. They were about time. Time with your mother, time in my workshop, time learning and building and creating something with my own hands. They were about being alive. I know that now." She wiped her eyes. "I ruined everything, not everything. The cars are being seen by thousands of people. The workshop is teaching kids who never would have had the chance. Your mother's memory is being honored." I finally looked at her. "You didn't ruin that. You just don't get to profit from it. I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Probably not. Not yet, anyway." I turned to face her fully. "But you're still my daughter. And somewhere in there is the girl who used to hand me wrenches and ask questions about how engines worked. The one who cried when we finally got that Mustang running after 2 years of work. The one who understood that some things are worth more than their market value. She's still here." Lisa's voice cracked. "I just forgot her for a while. Then maybe it's time to remember." We stood there in silence for a long time, two people mourning different losses in front of a car that represented everything money couldn't buy. Marcus filed for divorce 4 months later. Apparently, the failure of his investment scheme, combined with what he called my betrayal, had put too much strain on their marriage. Lisa didn't fight it. She started coming to the workshop on Thursdays. Not to see me at first. She'd tell me she was there to observe the program, to see what the space was being used for. But slowly, she started staying longer, started picking up tools, started asking the kids questions. One Thursday, 6 months after the restaurant incident, she was there when a 15-year-old named Jordan was struggling with a carburetor rebuild. I watched as Lisa knelt down next to him, showed him the technique I'd taught her 25 years ago, talked him through it with patience and care. When Jordan finally got it right, Lisa's face lit up with the same joy I remembered from when she was young. After the session ended and the kids left, she found me in the back, organizing socket sets. "I forgot how good this feels," she said. "Making something work, teaching someone, being part of something that matters. It's the best feeling in the world." I kept working, not looking at her. Better than money, better than property values, better than investment returns. "I'm sorry, Dad," she said it simply, without drama. "Not because I want anything back. Not because I think it'll change what I did. Just because I am genuinely, deeply sorry for losing sight of what you tried to teach me." I finally looked up. "I know you are. Can we—" She hesitated. "Can we start over? Not forget what happened, but maybe build something new?" I thought about Sarah, about what she would say, about forgiveness and family and second chances. Your mother always said that engines teach you everything you need to know about life. You can't undo damage once it's done, but you can rebuild. You can take something broken and make it work again, better than before, if you do it right. So, that's a yes? That's a maybe. Come back next Thursday, and the Thursday after that. Show me you mean it. She did come back, every Thursday for the next year. She came to the workshop, worked with the kids, learned the new tools and techniques I was teaching. She started small, just showing up. But gradually, she became essential to the program. Carmen offered her a part-time position. Lisa took it, even though it paid a fraction of what she'd made in Marcus's world. On the anniversary of Sarah's death, Lisa and I drove up to Sedona in Robert's Corvette. He'd insisted we borrow it for the day. We put the top down, felt the sun on our faces, drove the same roads Sarah and I used to love. "Think Mom would forgive me?" Lisa asked as we pulled over at a vista point. "Your mother forgave everyone for everything." I stared out at the red rocks. It was one of her superpowers. Also one of her weaknesses. "What about you?" "I'm working on it," I admitted. "Some days are easier than others. But you, showing up, doing the work with those kids, not asking for anything in return, that helps." I like it. The workshop, teaching, being part of something real. It is real. More real than anything Marcus was selling. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "Did you know? When you transferred everything, when you set up the lease, did you know it would lead to this? To me coming back, to Marcus leaving, to all of it?" I thought about it. About the moment I'd seen those papers on his desk. About the plan I'd formed. About the calls I'd made. I knew you had a choice to make. I just made sure the choice was real, not based on money you hadn't earned or property you didn't build. I needed to know if my daughter was still in there, underneath all the ambition and greed Marcus brought out. And I'm starting to see her again. Takes time, though. Rebuilding always does. We drove back as the sun set, the Corvette purring beneath us, and for the first time in a year, I felt something like peace. The workshop still runs. Carmen expanded the program, got grants, brought in more kids. They've restored 12 cars now, sold 3 at auction to fund the program, kept the others for teaching. Every car that goes through gets a small plaque. Restored at the Sarah Holbrook Memorial Workshop. Lisa runs the junior program now, full-time. She sold the house she'd shared with Marcus, moved into a modest apartment near the workshop. She's rebuilding her life the same way we rebuild engines. Carefully, methodically, one piece at a time. As for me, I'm there every Tuesday and Thursday, teaching kids who remind me why I fell in love with this work in the first place. The look on a teenager's face when they finally get an engine to turn over, when they understand how all the pieces fit together, when they realize they built something with their own hands. That's worth more than any property development Marcus could have ever pitched. My phone doesn't ring with desperate calls anymore. Now it's just Lisa, checking in, asking if I need anything from the store, telling me about a kid who showed real promise, inviting me to Sunday dinner at her apartment. I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we were. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll build something different, something stronger because it survived being broken. But I do know this. My workshop is still standing. Sarah's memory is being honored. And every Thursday afternoon, when I watch my daughter teach a 16-year-old how to gap a spark plug, I see her mother's smile on her face. That's legacy. Not property value, not investment returns, not assets that can be sold or traded or developed. Just a father and daughter building something that matters, one day at a time. And that's worth more than all the real estate in Arizona.